morning. It is Thursday, July 21st, 2022. The time is 10:03 a.m. and we are pleased to start the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program Executive Steering Group Committee meeting. I'm going to turn over this portion of the meeting to Amanda Owings, a member of the facilitation team, who is going to walk us through the instructions for the meeting, and then we will get started.
Thank you, Millicent. Good morning, everyone. Oops, pardon me, there we go. All right, so we'll go into some instructions for this meeting. Closed captions on the next slide here are available in English and in Spanish. English closed captions are available within Zoom and YouTube. Users can follow this link below, https://ibr.news/captions to view both English and Spanish captions in a separate browser. To access closed captions, go to the bottom middle of your screen and you should see a menu of options. If you cannot see the menu, hover your mouse over the bottom middle of the screen, click on the CC icon, and a separate window with the captions will appear. So a few tips for our meeting today. First of all, we'd like to thank you all for joining us. We encourage panelists to turn on your video. Please keep your audio on mute when you are not speaking. And before speaking, please state your name and affiliation to help attendees identify who is talking. If you experience technical difficulties, please contact the program staff at 360-329-6744. So for the public input, we are happy you are here today. There will be an opportunity to provide brief input at the meeting today. To submit your input after the meeting, please email your comments to info@interstatebridge.org with the words ESG Public Comment in the subject line. Or alternatively, you may call 888-503-6735 and state ESG Public Comment in your message. Now I'll cover a couple ground rules for today's meeting. We are going to honor the agenda. We are going to listen to understand and ask questions to clarify. We'll be hard on the problems and soft on the people. We'll address interests and seek common ground, and we will provide a balance of speaking time. So for today, our agenda is pretty succinct. We will actually take public comment first, followed by program updates from Administrator Johnson. Next, we'll provide time for updates for each ESG member, and we will follow with an overview of next steps. We'll then ask partners to individually provide their recommendation for the modified LPA. And finally, Program Manager John Willis will describe next steps for the program in the environmental process, and we'll conclude with upcoming meeting dates. Okay, so we'll start with our acknowledgements. I'd like to go around the virtual table today and acknowledge each ESG member rather than self-introductions. I'll just go through the list of participants for the record. So from the Oregon Department of Transportation, I welcome Director Chris Strickler. We have Amy Scarton, Deputy Secretary of the Washington State Department of Transportation, serving as the alternate for Secretary Millar. From the City of Vancouver, I welcome Mayor Ann McInerney-Ogle. For the City of Portland, we have Commissioner Joanne Hardesty. From Metro Council, we are pleased to have President Lynn Peterson. From the Southwest Washington Regional Transportation Council, I welcome Executive Director Matt Ransom. From the Port of Portland, I welcome CEO Juliana Marler. And for the Port of Portland, we're pleased to have State Affairs Manager Ivo Trumer standing in for Curtis Robinhold. From CTRAN, I welcome CEO Sean Donahue. And we're pleased that General Manager Sam Dessou is joining us from TriMet. We also have with us our Community Advisory Group co-chairs, Lynn Valenter and Ed Washington. Good morning, and thank you all for participating today. So as the first item of order, I will open the floor to public comment. Before we start, I need to state a few instructions for our commenters. If you have joined by Zoom, please raise your hand and the facilitator will call on you. If you've joined by phone, you can press 9 to raise your hand. The facilitator will call on all participants. You will receive an unmute request, so please accept that. If you're commenting by phone, dial *6 to unmute. Please provide your name and affiliation. Attendees will be allowed 2 minutes for public comment, and depending on the number of commenters, we have a total of 15 minutes allotted today for public comment. So if we run out of time and you have not had a chance to speak, you can still provide your comments after the meeting. And again, if you would like to do that, you can email your comments to info@interstatebridge.org with the words ESG Public Comment in the subject line, or you can call 888-503-6735 to state ESG Public Comment in your message. So all written comments must be received prior to 48 hours in advance of each upcoming meeting in order to be distributed to the ESG members. And comments received after that point will be distributed to members in advance of their next meeting. And all comments are posted to our IBR website. So with that, I will turn it to Brett to see if there are any public comments today.
Thank you, Amanda. It looks like we do have one right now with their hand raised. And so Zach, if you'd like to ask or give your verbal public comment.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
We can, Zach, thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So good morning, members of the IBR Executive Steering Group. My name is Zach Lindahl, and I'm with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce. We are a business organization of more than 820 member businesses throughout the region, employing over 75,000 people. We have a robust public policy division that advocates on many different business issues, including regional transportation. Back in May, the IBR team released new details on the status of the I-5 bridge when they unveiled the new LPA. The LPA detailed an I-5 bridge that would maintain 6 lanes with an additional auxiliary lane in each direction, an interchange over Hayden Island, and light rail expansion. Currently, our century-old bridge faces both safety and congestion-related issues. It's not a question of if, but whether a question of when a serious earthquake could cause a collapse of the bridge. Time is of the essence, so it's imperative that a new bridge is built to give us peace of mind that our critical part of our transportation grid is secure. However, building a safer bridge with similar capacity only solves half the problem. The existing bridge serves 140,000 vehicles daily, resulting in heavy traffic for at least 7, but up to 10 hours a day. By 2040, the number of crossings is predicted to climb as high as 175,000 vehicles trips daily. The effects of congestion are felt in numerous ways, as there's an increase of GHG emissions from idling vehicles, reduces free time for commuters, and increases financial costs associated with the delay of delivery of goods. At this point, the proposed solutions for congestion offered by the IBR appears to be a bridge with improved bicycle, pedestrian, and transit options. While this multimodal approach is important and provides commuters additional options, it is in our opinion that it will only result in minor relief for our congestion problems. These options are a viable solution for those who are taking short commutes to Portland, but not for all and for freight. So to sum up my testimony here, we're advocating for an increase of capacity and more lanes to help ease congestion on one of our most vital parts of our transportation infrastructure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank
Are
you.
there any other commenters today?
Looks like no one else has raised their hand to provide public comment.
Okay, well, that concludes our public comment period. I will turn things over to Millicent to continue.
Thank you so much, Amanda. You'd think after a couple of years of muting and unmuting, I'd remember to take myself off mute, but once again, I failed to do that. Thanks so much again for leading us through that portion of the meeting. Now we are going to have a quick discussion, providing Greg Johnson, our program administrator, will provide an update on where things are with the program. And then we'll move on into updates from each of the program participants, ESG participants. I'll call on each one once Greg concludes, should there be any questions. Following his comments, we'll certainly entertain those. Greg.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Once again, this is a very strong inflection point in the program as we are seeking to move from a locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process. So real quickly, I want to run through where we've been and where we're at today with you. So if we could pull up the slides. So, and if I can clear my screen off, that would help. All right. So once again, we have been talking for a year and a half about what this region wants in a new way to cross the Columbia River between Portland and Vancouver. We have been talking to the communities on each side. We've been talking in depth to partners, to a variety of stakeholders. So back at the beginning of May, we introduced what we call the locally preferred alternative. And you'll see that the smaller gray circle is that locally preferred alternative, which are the foundations of which we're going to take into the supplemental environmental impact statement, the NEPA process, to study to ensure that we are meeting the goals that this executive steering group has set for us and that the community expects of us. So this next step, if we are approved today to move forward, will be an approximately 1.5 long to 2-year long process to get us to a federal record of decision. And that will have the details that folks have been asking for, that we can dig into only once we have gotten to this locally preferred alternative. So you'll see that large circle. We will be doing more studies. We will be doing detailed plans. We will be seeking further authorizations to once again put more meat on the bone to create details around what this bridge will look like. So let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a drawing that all of you have seen probably too many times, but this is just a reminder of what the basis of the IBR recommendation for a modified locally preferred alternative is. So we are taking the study of a partial interchange on Hayden Island with a local connector bridge. We are looking to extend light rail to Evergreen and connect it with bus rapid transit that exists in Vancouver, ran by CTRAN. We're looking to study one auxiliary lane in each direction to assure ourselves that this will meet both the present and the future needs as we move forward. And finally, we are looking at variable rate tolling as a means of both raising revenue to help pay for the bridge, but also to manage traffic in this corridor in a more coordinated way. So let's go to the next slide. And this shows us the view from downtown Vancouver. It shows the yellow is the light rail running along I-5 and showing the impacts to downtown Vancouver. So this is once again showing the work that has been done over this past 1.5 years to get us to where we are today. So let's go to the next slide, please. So the other assumptions that are embedded in the modified locally preferred alternative is that this is a replacement bridge. We have gone through the studies of whether a tunnel would work, And we have taken that option off the table as it does not meet purpose and need nor the desires of the partners to connect interchanges through this corridor. So we are only extending 3 through lanes on each side, both northbound and southbound, which matches the current set of conditions. But we are also looking at how we can make that more effective with all of the latest and best traffic management practices from around the nation and around the world. The North Portland Harbor Bridge will be replaced. We're looking at making this a multimodal corridor with a comprehensive transit network that connects people and destinations. The interchange, there are 7 interchanges within this program corridor that we will be modernizing to make sure that folks can get on and off of the freeway in a very safe and effective way. We are looking at making sure that this investment, which will be one of the largest investments in active transportation in this region, is not only crossing the river, but connecting with other pathways to make sure that we are a part of a vital active transportation network. And once again, we assume variable rate tolling to be used for funding, but also to manage congestion and to improve multimodal mobility within the corridor. So next slide, please. So these last number of months have been extremely busy for the team. Between June 22nd and July 14th, all 8 program partners have endorsed the modified LPA. So we had unanimous support of the 8 partners. And in tallying all the votes of individuals, we were at over 90% of individuals who said yes to move this to the next phase. So this afternoon, we will be talking to the Bi-State Legislative Committee and seeking their acknowledgement of moving this modified locally preferred alternative into the next phase, which will be that deeper dive, that further evaluation. We have received a ton of feedback from different community members and organizations in this region. So we have received a number of letters of support, and we have received some letters that are critical of where we are. We take all of them very seriously and will be addressing all of those concerns as well as the kudos in our next phase. So let's go to the next slide, please. So here are some of the program commitments that we have been discussing with the different boards and councils and with some of you as we were going before your boards and councils. So I won't read through all of them, but we know that active transportation and the connection to transit stations is going to be key critical. Climate is once again at the top of our priorities, making sure we have a sustainable design and that we are doing smart things that will not increase greenhouse gases going into the future. Our community engagement is still tremendously robust. We are now probably at over 35,000 touches to the program, and we continue to do that. Our latest push has been going out to fairs and festivals and having booths where we have gotten robust input from folks who are, with the main sentiment being, let's get this thing done. We're having contracting and construction conversations, talking about DBE utilization, how this project will be delivered. The aesthetics are key. We heard that in no uncertain terms from the city of Portland. We want it to be both aesthetically pleasing while cost efficient and sustainable. We had an equity meeting just this past Monday where we had a very robust conversation talking about how we will track the promises and the commitments that are being made. The finance plan, we are looking by sometime early November to have an updated estimate and finance plan, putting in all of the new factors that we know about. And once again, taking us from that 10,000-foot view of a finance plan down to hopefully a 500-foot view of the cost and where things are trending towards. We've had very robust conversations on freight and the concern about will one auxiliary lane be able to handle the freight movements that are happening today and that will be going across this bridge in the future. And we've talked about interchange and bridge configurations to meet those needs for freight. I said I wasn't going through all of them, but here we are. Tolling, that's been a constant conversation. We just had a presentation from ODOT talking about their plans for equitable tolling practices for the regional mobility tolling plan that they are putting into place. So we will be taking ideas from them to and sharing across the river in Washington to look at how we can make tolling equitable. And we are still working tremendously close with our transit partners at TriMet and C-Tran to make sure that we are optimizing transit in this corridor and the connections to get folks where they want to go in the most effective way. So next slide, please. So that wraps up my update. And Millicent, I will turn it back over to you.
Thanks so much, Greg. You've shared at a high level the things that are important, the things that we've all discussed, and we want to make sure that everyone on this call or in this meeting and who's viewing from the public recognize that the program has those commitments in place to continue to move forward in a way that aligns and conforms with the expectations. It is an exciting time for the program, but more importantly for the region. And we want to make sure that we're giving each of our regional partners the opportunity to provide both an update on how things are going in their regional jurisdictions, but also to speak to the process that we've gone through, to the extent that you'd like, to the process that we've gone through in terms of engaging you to get all of us to this point. So I'm going to, as I mentioned prior to Greg speaking, Administrator Johnson speaking, I'm going to call on each partner. Again, I want to mention that there will be a separate moment when we call a question of each of you. You can certainly speak at that point as well if there are specific comments that you'd like to make as you share your sentiments about how you feel about us moving things forward. But at this point, we're going to ask that each of our program partners provide an update of things that have been going on. We've not met in quite a while, and so we recognize that there are things that are happening at the jurisdictional level that might be of import. And so I'm going to first ask that Director Strickler from the Oregon Department of Transportation provide any comments or updates that he would like to at this time. Director Strickler.
Thank you, Millicent. So good morning, everybody. Pleasure to be here, and it's great to see everybody. I'll start first with a thank you for all of the work that led to not just this point where we sit now, but a bit of a preview to a thank you for the ongoing work, because we all know we're not done. There's still more to come. I want to thank the project team. I want to thank each of the project partners, and I want to recognize just the difficult nature of kind of marrying the urgency along with the get it right element associated with a project like this. So thank you to each of you, and I appreciate not just each of your personal commitment to this program, but from an agency perspective, it's quite an accomplishment for 8 agencies or jurisdictional entities to come together on a single locally preferred alternative. So nice work to the team, nice work to each of the partners involved, and thank you to you and your staff. I'll be very brief on ODOT updates, and I'll make mere mentions and then happy to answer any questions if time allows. But our efforts lately have been pretty significant. We are happy to be moving forward on the Abernathy Bridge seismic retrofit project on I-205. We are also working pretty diligently on some workforce and apprenticeship goals for the agency. We have recently released for comment our new disparity study, increasing DBE participation goals, and we are continuing to build towards the urban mobility strategy. You heard Mr. Johnson already mention our Equity Mobility Advisory Committee working on some of our congestion pricing recommendations, and so we're happy that that's advancing. So a lot of work going on, much like all of you. So maybe I'll just pause there, Millicent, and leave room for my peers around the region.
Thank you so much, Director Strickler. Now we'd like to hear from the Washington Department of Transportation, Amy Scarton.
Good morning, thanks. Chris, Roger very much echoes your sentiment. You know, I'm here today to simply pass on his gratitude and congratulations to you all for the many years of collaboration and partnership. We've reached such an exciting point today, acknowledging there's much work ahead, but it has been wonderful over these last few months for me, you know, as Roger's deputy, to just pop in now and again at an MPO hearing or at a meeting where the city, the transit agencies, the MPOs and the ports are all digging in to this concept and to this project and to this alternative, asking tough questions, making it better, and then ultimately, it's just so impressive. And I know if Roger were here, he would go on and on with his thanks for all of your hard work and the hard work of each of your staffs and of the community engagement that we've done up to this point. It is extremely impressive. As far as other WashDOT updates, it's the busy summer season. We've got crews out everywhere doing our big summer work. The ferries are packed, the roadways are packed, and Roger and I are spending a lot of our time on a number of high-profile initiatives, community workforce agreements. We are working across Washington State to hold listening sessions on how we improve the community workforce agreement that WashDOT has done in the past and how we move these concepts forward in the state. Roger and I are spending a lot of time on a right-of-way initiative that Governor Inslee launched, where WashDOT, the State Patrol, and the Department of Commerce are really working to safely move individuals who are experiencing homelessness in our right-of-ways into housing. And we've had some great successes up in King County, Thurston County. We're working hard in Pierce County and Snohomish and in Spokane. And so a lot of work on providing housing, which is really important work for us to all be doing. And then of course, we're moving through the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Connecting Washington package. A lot of great things have come in those two pieces of legislation. We now have complete streets policy that is adopted across the state, and many more exciting things, but I will just pause there and end again with a note of thanks for all of your hard work.
Thank you so much, Deputy Secretary Scarton. Now we will hear from our regional governments. First, I'll ask that President Lynn Peterson provide any updates or comments that you'd like to share.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm not sure where to add our comments because I know we're going to be having a vote. And so I will just say I would rather hold any comments until that point, because obviously we have a lot of good things happening today, and I would rather acknowledge it at that time.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, President Peterson. Now we'll ask that Executive Director Matt Ransom from the RTC share any updates or comments.
All right, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. First, I'd just like to make a statement of acknowledgement and gratitude to all the citizen participation. First off, the volunteers on the various committees, the CAG, the EAG, the ad hoc committees. Just this last week, in preparing for the RTC board hearing, I reread the Equity Advisory Group's statement. And for those that have not reviewed it recently, such powerful observations about things that we should be doing, considering, implementing to ensure that this project works for all community residents and so forth. Second, acknowledging the various community business advisory groups. Over the years, I've had the pleasure of advising a coalition that was formed, I think a couple of years back, formed by Identity Clark County and the Columbia Corridor Association. This is a bi-state business group that has convened each year a business leader summit, and they focus specifically on how to advance this project. This year, the summit was bringing in mega project managers from across the nation to impart their input and observations for how they delivered projects like the I-5 bridge and such powerful information. I would encourage those that have not viewed that to check it out on YouTube. And then lastly, to the citizens that comment at each hearing of this group, in addition to our respective boards, at RTC, we listen, we debate within our office those comments that are made. Some comments are actionable, some comments are asking for work that may be out of sequence, but rest assured, I listen and my team discuss, and those comments that we can take the core of what you're asking for and bring it to the RTC Board of Directors and incorporate it into our analysis. We've done that and we'll continue to do that. Lastly, the RTC Board of Directors, the majority of them, endorsed moving forward. While there may be particularities of this project that, under their advice, deserve further work and further investigation, on the whole, the board is assured that advancing a multimodal bridge replacement project is in the public interest. It is in and predicated on our land use plans. We need to do it for our land use plans. We need to do it for our economic development strategy. In summary, it's time to move forward. We're committed to endorsing this next step of work. And thank you for all the contributions that the project has done in good faith. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Executive Director Ransom. Now we'll hear from the cities that have been most closely involved with this conversation. From the City of Vancouver, Mayor Ann McInerney-Ogle.
Thank you, Millicent. I'll go ahead and make my comments now and then enjoy sitting back and watching Lynn give hers later. But
yeah, and just thank you, Mayor Ann. I just for clarification again, Millicent, I'm not sure. I thought this was just an update on everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I need a little clarification. If we need to come back to me, I will make my comments now. Thank you so much, Mayor Ann.
What I was hoping was that folks would make their comments here. But that certainly I anticipated, as was the case in May when we had the initial action to move things into boards and commissions. Folks gave their updates, but as we asked the question, then there was often a second statement that people made, a shorter statement. So I wanted to provide the opportunity for people to do both or, either and or both, whatever I'm trying to say.
So Lynn, I'll do either and or and back all together in the second one.
Perfect.
I do want to thank all of you for your partnership in getting us to this point. And we know that the work that we've done so far illustrates the importance of replacing this bridge, but it also sets that stage for further collaboration. Amy was talking about this a little bit with WashDOT. We have some critical issues such as housing and homelessness and climate action, equity, economic development, community safety, and all of the natural disaster preparedness that we're going to be working on. So working together is an absolute must because we're going to be sharing all of those challenges and the goals. But as you know, each of our agencies have identified key elements that are critical to their constituents, and Vancouver is no different. Through this entire process, the City of Vancouver unanimously indicated their support for the LPA framework and replacing the bridge. And at the same time, when they outlined their expectations, and we know it's a significant body of work that's still to come, but it also is very needed. And we know that the outcome our community needs and expects from this program will be coming. So I would be remiss if not acknowledging that we wouldn't be here today without our long-standing relationship with our Southwest Washington partners and the relationship with our Oregon partners that have been strengthened in the last 2 years. And since we've had beverages and bagels with each of you, I think I can use first names. So Sean and Monica, thank their team, please, for all of the C-TRAN work and the leadership of communicating those important transit opportunities. Matt, please thank the RTC team for helping us spell out what it means for our region and how the long-standing planning and policy goals are so important. And Juliana, please thank your team over at the port for consistently being right there to ensure that the visions of our waterfront and all of our freight needs and the community freight needs are integrated into the program. So we'd also like to thank Joanne. Please give Ted and your council our thank you, and Lynn. The Metro group did a wonderful job, and Curtis, I know, isn't on this call, but we'll go ahead and send his note. And Sam, I can't wait to be out with you working on all of the transit work, but please thank your team and all of the partners, because we do value those relationships, and it has built an incredible process for our region. And while Roger isn't here, Amy, please send him our thanks for his leadership. And of course, Chris, it was delightful having you as our spy on the Oregon side. Thank you so very much for accepting that responsibility and reworking this process, getting things started. So we know there's a tremendous amount of work ahead of us, and we do want to take this moment and celebrate the opportunity, knowing that we're still expecting Shovel in the Dirt 2025. We'll be back in Washington, D.C. We want to be there to hand the Secretary a letter requesting $2 billion in support for this bridge. We do expect the federal government to pay their 1/3 of this bridge. And since we're each throwing in $1 billion, it's only fair that the federal government give us their third. I know my mathematics. So it'll be a lot of work together, and we wouldn't be able to agree on every single thing that comes forward. We know that we'll need to compromise, but I don't want us to lose sight on what we actually do agree on, and that is to replace this bridge. We need to build it with equitable, resilient, and connected elements for our region, and that it supports the opportunity and prosperity of all of our community members in this entire area. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mayor Ann. Now we'll hear from Commissioner Joanne Hardesty from the City of Portland.
Thank you so much. And let me just start by thanking you, Millicent, and you, Greg, and the IBR team. Clearly, we would not have been here without good management, good facilitation, hearing all the various voices, and then incorporating those voices into a document that, as you said, has passed by with a very significant margin at all of our partner agencies. I especially want to really appreciate where we are as a region. You know, we're in a time where people don't think elected leaders are worth anything much, and they don't think that we get things done, and they certainly don't think that we can work across political differences to actually be able to support a project that will benefit all users of the project. And I hope that we don't lose taking a moment to just reflect how monumental this is. And I was kind of chuckling this morning with the public testimony, because what it showed me is we must be on the right track, because activists hate it and business community hates it. And therefore, we absolutely must be moving in a direction that makes the right sense for all the things that we value and have prioritized. We are in a climate emergency, and we must acknowledge that everything we do on this project will either help or exacerbate the climate emergency that we are currently in. The fact that we all collectively agree that this project should be a model for how transportation projects add value to communities by providing multimodal transit options and connecting community members who have not, and prioritizing those that haven't had access to a multitude of transportation options. We're building this bridge for our grandkids. And so if you think about the legacy, the generational bridge that we're building something that will continue to connect our communities. Our Vancouver and Portland metro communities will continue to link us interconnectedly. I have really appreciated getting to know many of you I didn't, some of you I didn't know before we started meeting a year and a half ago. Some of you I got to know at this little box, this little Zoom box. And I will tell you, I have appreciated each and every one of you leaning in, being honest, and then us working through the hard stuff to move on. And I want to give a special shout out to Mayor Ann, because I have to say, she's my kind of mayor, and she's certainly someone who, when she sets her mind to something, things happen. Can I ask WSDOT to send information to us about how WSDOT is helping houseless people getting to housing they can afford to be in? I think we would have a big interest in that at the City of Portland. I'm not happy with what my city does when it comes to removing houseless people from the public right of way. And if we could get ODOT to send us a link for the new disparity study, I think that's something we all should be getting familiar with long before this project starts shoveling stuff. And I will stop there and just say, again, thank you all. I really appreciate the relationships and the honesty and our ability to have hard conversations, but not be disagreeable people.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. Now we'll hear from our port representatives. First, we'll ask that Juliana Marler, CEO of the Port of Vancouver, share with us her thoughts.
Thank you, Millicent. The Port of Vancouver has been a longtime supporter of replacing the I-5 bridge for many reasons, and we've talked about many of those, including safety, reliability, efficiency, access. The ability to move people and goods is vital to our region's livability and economic vitality. We had the opportunity to present the proposed modified locally preferred alternative along with our conditions of approval to our Board of Commissioners on July 12th. We received several public comments at that meeting in support of endorsing the recommendation, including representatives from labor, economic development, and business. After discussion, our board did unanimously support us proceeding as presented and looks forward to our participation in development of the project. I just wanted to highlight what we've heard from a lot of folks. There has been an incredible amount of work that has gone into getting us to this point. And I want to thank Greg for his program leadership and the IBR program team for all their efforts. I am so impressed with the staff at all of our partner agencies and the collaboration that has led us to this point. I appreciate the partnerships we've developed and willingness to understand the challenges that we all face. For the port, we had concerns that freight was not being addressed early in the process. Once this was highlighted, it became a key component of our considerations. And I appreciate the support that we received from the program, our partner agencies, and our legislative delegation. I just want to thank everyone again, and I look forward to the next steps in our continued partnership to support this critical project for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, CEO Marler. Now we'll hear from Ivo Trummer from the Port of Portland, representing Executive Director Curtis Robinhold.
Yeah, thank you, Millicent. I'm glad to be here. I'm pleased to report that the Port of Portland Commission voted unanimously to endorse the modified locally preferred alternative. The Port of Portland is committed to supporting the replacement of the current I-5 bridge in a climate-forward and equitable way. Want to also echo the thank yous and appreciation for all the hard work done by the DOTs, the IBR team, the partner organizations, the members of the public that have served on the advisory groups or have weighed in with their comments on the bridge. The LPA is a significant step, and we are excited to move into the next phase of this work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivo. Now we'll hear from our transit agencies. First, we'll hear from General Manager Sam Dessou from TriMet.
Thank you, Millicent. I want to let everybody know I'm very grateful for where we are today. What a huge accomplishment for our region. And I'm really thankful for all of you and your hard work that you've put forward. I'm happy to confirm that TriMet Board of Directors voted in support of the modified LPA last month. And we really appreciate all of the great work of the IBR team, Greg, Frank, Ray, Millicent, and all of our partners, FTA, FHWA, and Collaborating Metro, and collaborating to address so many issues. A very special thanks to our transit partners, C-Tran. Sean, just want to thank you and your team for the immense amount of collaboration between our teams, and our relationship is stronger than ever. I want to thank you, Mayor Ann, Roger, Matt, Juliana, and Lynn for your leadership and really helping us to forge this new partnership across the river to better connect Portland and Vancouver. And the TriMet team stands ready and eager to support this next phase of study, especially looking at how we can make transit as quick and easy and possible for all people who needs it most. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Manager Dessou. Now we'll hear from CEO Sean Donahue from C-Tran.
Yeah, thank you, Millicent. And I would just echo the comments that everyone before us made that, I know we don't agree on everything throughout this project, but to get to this point where we have all of our major agencies putting forward a plan that works and voted on, I think is incredible. And we should be very thankful to all of the teams that were involved in that. And I know that C-Tran is. We're especially thankful for all of the partners on this program. And I just want to say thanks to my good friend Sam. I know TriMet's doing some really good work over there, and it's always wonderful to have such a great regional partner with Sam and his team. And again, thanks to all the partners on the program. We know this is, I think, as the mayor puts it, it's step 3 of 100. So we're getting there, but this is a huge step. And so it's just really great to be at this point. I know it puts the pressure on the program a little bit because now there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And I would echo the mayor's comments that, we need to be as aggressive as we can with the federal government to ensure that they're putting in equal parts that the states and that our local will as well through some of the tolling programs. So just want to say thanks to the team. Thanks to everybody for their hard work. This really is an incredible step that we're at here today. So I appreciate all the hard work and just thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you so much, CEO Donahue. Now we will shift gears a little bit. It's a different type of an update that we'll hear from President Peterson.
It's become very clear that this is where we're expected to give our comments. So I will follow on and, as Sean just said, a lot of echoing of things back and forth, but I just want to acknowledge, to start out with Greg Johnson, thank you. You came in and you recognized that there was a huge, incredible trust deficit based on how the project the process that was used last time, and the decisions that were made and how that made people feel. And there was little ownership to those decisions. And you created a process and you listened. You did actually do what you said you would do, is listen to understand, and to actually carry through on trying to help us all come to some very hard decisions with a lot of innovation behind it and a lot of flexibility. So I just want to say thank you, because none of this would have happened if you had not taken that mindset. So thank you. Just to recognize that the Metro Council did vote to approve the modified LPA because of all that hard work. With a detailed list of conditions of approval, of course. The vote was 6-1. Our work, just like the entire executive committee and all of the other committees that fed into this process, was valued in the two big issues of our time, racial equity and climate. And we've taken those two things on as a group with, and I think succeeded in moving the ball forward to getting some real outcomes on the ground, which is really what we have all acknowledged is what we want to do, is that we are one step closer to getting a bridge that works for this region. And it's a very important bridge, and we can't get hung up on the perfect, right? Because the perfect is not within reach, because everybody's is a different perfect. And so what we found is we found the perfect Venn diagram at this point to make sure that we are punching through on all the things that overlap. I think what we heard in comments, just going back to our meeting, most of those comments were related again to how folks felt treated last time. And I feel very proud that this group and our Metro Council did not treat people that way this time, and really worked to make sure that those issues that were asked to come to the forefront were put to the forefront and not just acknowledged, but worked on. So thank you for all of you for acknowledging all of the issues that were put on the table. That is really a big part of what got us to a 6-1 vote, is acknowledgement and work on these hard issues. With that, again, we've got a lot of questions that still need to be answered, but we know that they will be answered, and we know that they will be worked on. And I think we're coming out of this as a region stronger than we went in. And again, credit to both DOTs and the project team for all of the work that has been done. Thank you.
Thank you, President Peterson. Before we move on to calling the question, we want to make sure that our CAG co-chairs, Lynn Valenter and Ed Washington, have the opportunity to share from their perspectives how this process has moved forward, how the communities that they represent have had their voices heard, and what they're expecting to see as we advance the work. So first, I'll ask that, is it Lynn, will you start and then Ed finish? Ed, are you making a statement? Okay, I'm sorry, I got it mixed up. You're on mute. I know you're working through it, Mr. Washington. Ed, we can't hear you. There we go.
Hold on. I'm trying to get there.
You're there. You're there.
Can you hear me? Because I can't. Okay. This is always a very interesting process, especially for me, because it seems like whenever I have to speak, these silly machines always do something and you lose contact. But you know, the CAG is an advisory group. And I was reading something where it said that had there been a vote for the CAG did not vote on this. We are an advisory group. We don't have a say, but I assure you that they keep us very well informed on what's going on. And I think for the CAG, there's of all the people, all the groups on the CAG, there are things that they want to see. But they just make sure that that information is passed on to Mr. Johnson and his team and anyone else, you know, based on through us. So as far as a CAG co-chair, I'm comfortable with moving it, but I'm not saying that because I got a vote, because we did not vote on it, but we do have to move on. And I think that the CAG, when we had the opportunity for them to go out and do the in-person tour a few weeks ago, that tells you very much their interest. And I assure you, if they're in the future, if there's something that that they're not pleased about, you will hear about it. So I will pass it on to Lynn, and if need be, I'll come back and say something else. Lynn.
Thank you. I'm suffering from laryngitis, so hopefully you can understand me. If not, I may have to cut my remarks short. I would just like to make 3 points about the process that we all invested in. First of all, it truly is a bi-state venture, and I would say within CAG, we did not see polarization along state lines. We all came together as one community. And so just as all of the other Hollywood Squares little boxes on this call have reflected, I just want to say that CAG had the same experience where we came together with joint goals and joint conversation. Second of all, as was validated multiple times by community surveys, when we survey CAG for CAG's opinions, they very much reflect the surveys that we get from the community at large. And so again, want to just acknowledge that there was a lot of work done at the beginning of this process about how to seat CAG and who would be representative. And so I think the goals that it would be representative of the community at large were in fact met. And then the third point I would make is just that CAG is supportive, just like our community, and Lynn previously noted, we all have different opinions and not all of them can be reconciled. But in general, we found a solution that we can all endorse. And speaking on behalf of CAG, I think that we are almost excited for this next phase. I think we're at what, 3 to 5% design. CAG is really excited to engage in the next phase of being involved and participating and influencing the outcome. But at this point, we do acknowledge the alignment with values and priorities, and have appreciated the opportunity to be included in some of the broader and more detailed conversations with that alignment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Washington and Ms. Ballantyre. Of course, we want to make sure that your voice is always amplified and that the inputs of the community are heard by and through you. And so we look forward to continuing in the process. So now we will transition to calling the question that has been placed before you. I'm going to go around to each individual participant and ask the same question, with the exception of the CAG co-chairs, who will answer a different question. Again, as Mr. Washington indicated, they did not have a group that was voting on a decision, but rather they were there providing advice as an advisory committee. And so they will provide a different, I will ask a different question and they will offer a response according to that question. So pencils up, voting cards up. I don't know, I don't think we have those, but we're all ready to go through the process. If Brent, you could place the question on the screen so that everyone can see what we are asking each partner. Again, I'll be going in order, similar order as to the way that I just went through for comments. So, Director Chris Strickler from the Oregon Department of Transportation, do you recommend to move the modified locally preferred alternative, also known as the LPA, into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation?
Thank you, Millicent, and all involved. I do recommend moving it for further evaluation.
Thank you so much, Director Strickler. Now, from the Washington Department of Transportation, I'm going to ask you the same question on behalf of Secretary Millar. Do you recommend to move the modified locally preferred alternative, the LPA, into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now, from the regional government, I'm going to ask first, President Lynn Peterson, do you recommend to move the modified locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation? And if you'd like to make additional comment, here's where you can do that.
On behalf of the entire Metro Council, yes.
Thank you so much.
-1, sorry, -1, 6 to 1.
Thank you so much, President Peterson. From the City of Portland, I'm going to ask Commissioner Joanne Hardesty if she recommends to move the modified locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation. Commissioner Hardesty?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. I will now ask the ports for their opinions. Juliana Marler from the Port of Vancouver, do you recommend that we move the modified locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And now for the Port of Portland, do you, Evo Tremor, on behalf of Curtis Robinhold, recommend to move the modified locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Evo. From our transit agencies, we're going to first ask General Manager Sam Dessou if you recommend to move the modified locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation. Mr. Dessou?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And from CTRAN, we're going to ask CEO Sean Donahue if he recommends to move the modified locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I missed one. Thank you so much, CEO Donahue. I'm going to go back to the regional government RTC and ask Executive Director Matt Ransom if he recommends to move the modified locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation. Mr. Ransom?
Yes, the RTC Board of Directors endorses further study of the MLPA.
Thank you so much. And now, as I just mentioned, I'm going to ask a different question of the CAG co-chairs, Lynn Ballinger and Ed Washington. Do you believe the Community Advisory Group has had the opportunity to provide input on the components of the modified LPA and to assess how these components compare to the CAG's values and priorities? And as a second part of that question, based on the CAG's input, are you comfortable supporting the program's recommendation to advance the modified LPA for analysis as part of the environmental process? Lynn Ballinger?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And Ed Washington?
This is my moment. Yes.
Thank you so much. All right.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't believe you asked Mayor Ann McInerney Ogle on behalf of the City of Vancouver.
Thank you so much.
Millicent, I, Ann McInerney Ogle, representing the City of Vancouver in sickness and in health for richer for poor, do recommend that we move the modified locally preferred alternative into the supplemental environmental impact statement process for further evaluation. I do.
Thank you so much, Mayor Ann McInerney Ogle. I don't know what happens to me. I think I get distracted by the thought of your cookies that hopefully I'll get to taste one day. But thank you so much for your strong support and for making sure that your voice is always heard. Thank you for that vote of support for this process. All right. Does everyone have their fingers on the celebration buttons? Do they have those in Zoom? I don't even know. That sounds like a unanimous vote that we move the LPA into the supplemental environmental impact statement. Can we all give ourselves or give each other a round of applause? Thanks so much to everyone. And I'm going to ask that our program administrator, Greg Johnson, you can take this slide down, Brent, that our program administrator, Greg Johnson, provide any comments, and then we'll move on into the conversation about next steps.
Thank you, Millicent. And I want to thank all of the members of the ESG and your staff. This has been a tremendously robust and interesting process. And I want to acknowledge that the work that has been done. I tell folks, you know, this is like climbing Mount Everest. We are just at base camp. We are nowhere near the summit. We've got a lot of work to do, but getting to base camp is a significant step, and it prepares us to make a successful climb the rest of the way. So we are going to continue with the the principles that we set forward for the program of transparency, of robust interaction, of asking hard questions and listening well as we go into this next step. So I want to thank you for giving us the ability to move this program forward. So let's pull up the slides and talk about what happens next. So if I can, once again, yes. So as you know, this afternoon, we will be talking to the bi-state legislative group to get their acknowledgement of the work that has been done and acknowledge that we have regional alignment on moving this to the next step. So that's our immediate next step that will occur this afternoon. But once that occurs, we're going to start laying the groundwork to get us through this next phase. So one of the first things that our folks have started to work on is a new conceptual finance plan. So this will, oh, Marianne, I see you have a question.
No, Greg, the concept for the finance plan is going to be very important because all along we have always had the assumption that it would be a third federal, a third states, and a third tolling. And if my mathematics is correct, if the state of Washington puts in $1 billion and the state of Oregon puts in $1 billion, then the other 2/6, the third from the federal government, would be to be requesting $2 billion from them. Can we have assurance that in the conceptual finance plan, we're going after $2 billion from the federal government?
Well, I will go you one better. We're actually, we're going to be going probably after $2.5 billion in total from our federal partners.
That's fantastic.
So we are looking at, you've heard those saying, go big or go home. We're going big with our ask. We just had a conversation with folks from USDOT just earlier this week. And we are in the process, as that third bullet says, of putting in an application for the Big Bridge grant program. So that program alone, we are making an ask of over $700 million. And this is with the blessing of the DOTs. They know how much we are asking, and they know that this Big Bridge program is meant for these mega bridge projects across the country. So we also have the mega grant that we will be putting in for next year, and we will be looking at a very similar amount. And we also will be looking at the Federal Transit Administration's Capital Investment Grant Program, which will be, once again, a very similar, if not more, a higher amount from that pot of money. So yeah, overall, we will be over $2 billion in ask from the federal government. So as part of the conceptual finance plan, oh, Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you. It just occurs to me, so is this money guaranteed regardless of who's in office?
Well, that is, there are no guarantees in life. And I remind folks of what happened with high-speed rail in California. Their program was defunded at the federal level when priorities change, when parties change. So that's why we want to keep pedal to the metal and get these commitments wrapped up and have this move forward with these commitments as quickly as possible. So no guarantees, but if we move quickly, there is the recognition at the federal level of the importance of this project is there, and there is bipartisanship on how this program should move forward. All right, so yes, Mary.
Greg, I'm so sorry, but I know there's competing projects in Portland. We just heard from JPAC this morning about the Burnside Bridge. Why would ODOT and WashDOT not go after more up front early and let them shave it down instead of waiting longer and hoping less comes in or in small packages? Why not go big right up in front?
Well, I can only speak to the IBR program, and we're going to put in a tremendously large request. Right now, some of the we are restricted to grant requests for the bridge program of half the cost of the bridge. And right now, we're anticipating the bridge will be in the neighborhood of $1.5 billion. So we are maximizing our ask at $750,000. That's for the bridge alone, not for the entire corridor. So that is, we are asking for the maximum amount allowable under the rules as we have read them, as we understand them at this point.
Okay, thank you for spelling that out. That will be important as we move forward when you're applying for all these different opportunities of what is the bridge, what is the what are the intersections, what is the transit. If you have that plan, we're looking forward to seeing it so that we know that every single opportunity you have to ask the absolute maximum, we're going after it. Thank you.
We will. We have a team that is very versed in grant writing and the grant procedures at the federal level. So those folks have been activated. We are turning in a early planning grant application, I believe either late this week or early next week. And by early August, by the second week of August, we will have the big construction grant application turned in. So, but once again, we have heard succinctly during the commission and council meetings that folks are interested in what is this going to cost? What is the revised number? So our folks are working hard on getting that number revised, and we hopefully will have that ready to go in early November. Once again, it's a complex set of calculations. Now will be based on the locally preferred alternative that's moving forward. So once again, in 2023, we know we have to go before the Oregon legislature to make a similar ask of what has been done in Washington. So we will be laying the groundwork for that. And one of the key things is, once again, knowing what the overall cost of the program will be and having then demonstrated a clear understanding of what Move Ahead Washington funds look like for the program. So we've covered the applying for federal grants. We're going to, these are the three major grants, the bridge, the big bridge, the mega projects, as well as the transit capital investment grant. But there are other opportunities at the federal level we will also be looking for. We know that in partnership with the ports, we can also apply for some grants that are specific for the infrastructure surrounding ports. So those are smaller grants, but we will be looking at those as well for, once again, things that we can do to offset costs on this program. So we heard Sean.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this conversation, but if you can expand a little bit. I thought I heard you say that the estimated cost of the construction of the bridge was 1.5 billion. And that's why
Yes.
we're asking for the 750 million. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because that seems really low. Are we talking about just the bridge itself? Are we talking about the whole influence area? Like 1.5 billion construction on the bridge on a $5 billion project seems. I mean, can you clarify that a little bit for me? I'm just trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, that is just the bridge itself. That is not the entire 5-mile corridor. So that is from touchdown point on Hayden Island to touchdown point in Vancouver has been estimated at approximately $1.5 billion.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate the clarity on that. Just want to make sure I was here.
No problem. So we have heard from the boards and councils and from individuals on the ESG about conditions that the program must address as we are moving into this next phase. So we have put together a team that has gathered all of the conditions from the partners. And we think we have the comprehensive list, and we have posted it on our website. So if you want to see all of those things that came out of boards and councils, those things are on our website. What we are doing internally, we put a team together to categorize them and put work plans around how we answer each of those conditions. So this is going to be a process that has started, and we will start getting answers to those things as we move forward in the upcoming months. So in 2024, once again, we are still at around 2% of design. So we're going to start putting more coals on the fire to heat up design elements and get more details to folks, so you can start seeing the bridge type, the bridge layout of whether it's going to be a stacked alignment or a side-by-side alignment. Those are questions that we have to answer. We're also doing a study to answer questions on the Coast Guard's initial finding. So we are looking at the trade-offs for what putting a new movable bridge in place would look like. And one of the things we know it would look like, it would be one of the largest movable bridges of its type in the world. So you've heard other folks say that, no, that's not the case. Well, they are ill-informed. This would be one of the largest lift bridges or bascule bridges, which is basically a drawbridge that opens with 2 leaves in the world, if we are to go in that direction. So that's things that we are working on now. We have more analysis to be done. We're going to be doing more traffic analysis. We are looking at more community engagement. In this next step, there are required public hearings that are a mandated part of the process, but we will also be doing other public outreach to make sure we are bringing the community along as we move forward. So we talked about the design details. There will be more details on transit and on stations. If we are to build park and rides, we will start putting more details around that, or if there are alternatives to doing that, we will be putting those things on the table. Last but not least, we have begun internally the discussion about community benefits / workforce agreements discussion. So this is something that is going to take, once again, a standing committee to do work on. So we will be asking some members of the ESG to help head that committee, as well as members of the community, union members, and some non-union chops to help sit in and help work through workforce as well as community benefits discussion. And we are still looking and anticipating and on schedule to break ground in late 2025, early 2026. And Ed, I see you have a hand up. Or it's gone now. All right, there you go. Ed, your hand is up and you're on mute, so I don't know.
All right, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
I can.
And you see my hand, okay?
Yep.
Greg, I just wanted to say, and I'll say this on behalf of both Lynn and I don't know if she's still on, but I just say we really appreciate so very much really the good attention that you and your staff has given the CAG. And I know you do the same for everybody, but it's just a pleasure to have you come in and talk with them. You always speak pretty straightforward to them. You don't leave anybody hanging, and you answer their questions. And you have done a wonderful job of keeping us apprised of what's next and what could go wrong, possibly, and what goes right. And so we appreciate that so very, very much, and look forward to continuing to work with you in that regard. Okay.
Well, Ed, I want to thank you for those kind comments. It's my pleasure working with you and Lynn. You guys are tremendous ambassadors for each of your communities, and the common sense, down to earth nature that both of you bring to that CAG is just fantastic. So it's my pleasure to interact with the CAG. So
thank you.
And we look forward to some more in-person meetings and tours and things of that nature. So Commissioner Hardesty.
Thank you, Greg. You know, as we were studying the vote on the locally preferred alternative, I realized that you had publicly announced that Mayor Ann and I were going to be co-chairing the Community Benefits Workforce Agreement Committee. Yes. And I don't know that we've actually had a sit-down conversation yet about the magnitude of that ask. You know, I said I was interested, but that's not quite the same as saying, yes, I am taking on another full-time job in addition to all the other full-time jobs that I have. So I would just encourage us to have a meeting with Mayor Ann and your team and figure out what the expectations are, because I didn't say anything because we were like, at the track and we were moving. But I do want to circle back and say, I think we need to have more conversation before you go off saying that is what's going to happen.
Understood. And that's why I didn't specifically mention you guys today.
I noticed that today, but yeah, I just wanted to, for the record, show that I think, and I don't want to speak for Mayor Ann, but I think we're both interested, but I need more information because, as you know, my life's a little busy.
Understood. So
agreed.
So we are in the process of putting a framework together so we can better answer what a committee would look like and what the co-chair's responsibilities would look like going into the future. This is, once again, this will be a long-term committee because generally community benefits committees last through the actual construction. So we understand that folks will have other commitments and we will have some folks come and go. But we will bring to you, once we get a better handle on what this thing will look like, we will start bringing both you and Mayor Ann in to have that discussion of is there still interest in making this commitment? So understood.
Thank you. And I would just say, I would love to talk about the committee before I would agree, right? What are you thinking about the committee membership? Because everything matters.
Yep.
As to who is sitting at that table. And, you know, this is not our first rodeo when it comes to, you know, attempting to do things differently than we have traditionally done them in the past. So I really look forward to that conversation. Okay. And honestly, I'd love to get I'd love to have a conversation with our whole executive committee around that as well, because none of us want to set up expectations that we cannot achieve.
Understood. We will make all of that happen. Once again, we are just in the internal talking about how our team is going to support a committee, what the committee might look like, and have some things that folks can react to before we start putting final pencil to paper on what this thing will be. So, Matt Ransom, I see you have a question.
Yeah, just actually a reinforcing comment to Mayor Ann's comment and Sean's comment about the finance plan. And I recognize that you may do this, but I think it's important to state this publicly, which is, I think you need to open the strategy book, what you just characterized in terms of, you know, the bridge grant program, 1.5 for the bridge. And so the eligibility limit is 750 and, you know, the half. People need to understand that. If there's an issue of great public interest, and we've heard it in commentary here from those asking for studies that will come but are out of sequence, when I looked at and heard the discussion around the RTC board table, and I think part of their encouragement was, as the mayor described, go big or go home, you know, ask for as much other resource as possible. I think the public is best served by understanding the strategy. And I don't recall, because it's been a few months that I read your most recent finance report, but if it didn't get to the more nuance of strategy, just as you characterize in the Bridge Grant Program application, please embellish it. And I think share with both our policy boards as well as the public why these decisions were made to apply for X and a certain amount. I think there's great value in that. I think it'll serve all of our purposes in describing why we're making certain decisions. And ultimately, if there has to be a nip or a tuck or an adjustment to the scope, you know, the reasons why, and whether it correlates with our capacity to fund it or eligibility criteria in certain grant programs. Just if you haven't gone there, please consider those embellishments in your next phase. And I think as we had encouraged at the board level at RTC, the repeated adjustment. If something didn't fulfill, then what adjustment we need to make so that we can carry this forward together, and that I think just the overall transparency is the highest we could make it. I think that's very useful. Thank you.
Understood. We will be talking to folks throughout the process of putting together the conceptual finance plan and estimates to make sure that we have that input from ESG, from bi-state, to make sure that we are hitting the marks that everyone needs to see in this more refined document. So we recognize that's a key cornerstone of getting us moved forward. So yes, we will be talking to you and the other partners about what you guys want to see before we dry the ink on and formulate all the strategies. All right. So seeing no other questions, let's go to the next slide, which is my last one. And this is just our overall project schedule. And once again, you can see where we are at. We are looking at wrapping up our environmental process in 2024, being in a pre-construction phase in early 2024 that will allow us to start talking, or at least start formulating how this large program will be delivered. So in that, you see the design is moving throughout this entire portion, putting more details. Funding and grant application processes is also embedded in this schedule. Permitting. We've talked about the Coast Guard. We know that by late 2025, early 2026, we will have to have a Coast Guard permit in place. So we will be working those details throughout this time period and answering questions and putting forward scenarios for the Coast Guard that meet their needs to facilitate river traffic, but also meets the needs of all the partner agencies to move traffic and freight through this corridor. So once again, this is where we're going. You know, a lot of hard work in front of us. Once again, we're at base camp. You know, we're getting ourselves ready for the thin air as we start climbing up, and the more hard work that has to go on. So at this point, I will take any questions or feedback that you have for me. And we have other team members here that I need to acknowledge. This program would not be where it's at without the team that's behind us, and some of the leaders of that team are here. Frank Green from WashDOT, and Frank is the assistant program administrator, and you've heard from Frank on many occasions. Ray Mabey, who is the associate program administrator from ODOT. We have John Willis, who is the program manager for the General Engineering Consulting firm. And of course, I would be neglectful if I didn't mention Millicent, who has been just a tremendous add to our team. This is only the face of the team that you see. We have a tremendous amount of other folks who are doing great work, but this program would not be where it's at without the input of these folks. So with that, I will take any questions, or we will take any questions or feedback that you may have for us. You guys are gonna become quiet now. We've reached a milestone, and now you're gonna go quiet on me.
Well, I believe that hearing no additional questions or comments is a testament to the work that the team has done, not just as a program team, but with each of the partners that are represented around the table. So it is an exciting time. We know that the work will continue. The work has to continue. And so just want to say thanks to each of you, echoing the sentiments that Greg has shared. Thanks to each of you for your really long-standing commitment and the hard work that you've put in. As you said, Commissioner Hardesty, excuse me. As you said, Commissioner Hardesty, you have several full-time jobs, and many of you have taken this on as yet another one. And so just want to say thank you for that. And that level of commitment demonstrates that this is important and something that's valuable and necessary for the folks that you're serving. So if there are no additional comments or questions, we are going to move forward with closing the meeting out. I'd like to thank Amanda for being there in support of this effort. She was able to step in to support facilitation. I am traveling, and just in case you didn't notice, I fell off for a little while, but I'm back. But if I didn't make it back, she was going to be prepared to close us out. I just wanted to remind all of us that we will not have an ESG meeting next month. We are taking August as a moment of respite for everyone. there are several things that will be happening, and we'll keep you updated as to what's going on. But we recognize that after you finish something like this, it's time to give yourself some opportunity to recover and restore. And so we will be providing an update regarding the regularly scheduled meetings that we'll have. We anticipate that we will likely have one every month, but it might be that once we look at the full work program, that it's determined that we can reduce the frequency. Again, not that anything is less important, but the course of actions that we'll be taking over the next several months to up to a couple of years, as Greg, as Administrator Johnson has indicated, might create the opportunity for a different cadence. So with that, we will take your votes back to the team. We will celebrate that, and we will get right back to work. So thank you all so much for all of your participation, for your active listening, and for ensuring that you challenged the team to be its best self so that we could, in fact, provide what's necessary and critical for this region at this time. Thank you all so much. It is I don't know what time it is there. It is
11:38.
Thank you. It's 11:38 a.m. and we will now close the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program meeting for the Executive Steering Group Committee. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.